There comes a moment in every soul's life when silence becomes louder than noise, when you wake up and feel something shifting, not around you but inside you. Maybe you can't explain it, maybe no one else sees it, but you feel it. That spark, that whisper, I am meant for more. This isn't ego, this isn't arrogance, this is truth waking up inside you. For years you've poured into others, listened to their opinions, carried expectations that were never yours to hold, waited for someone to notice you, choose you, validate you, save you. But today, you choose yourself. This is the beginning, not of a fight with the world, but a sacred reunion with your own potential. Today, you stop chasing approval. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop begging life to choose you. Because now, you choose you, and you will focus on you. Until you rise, until you transform, until you win. Welcome to your rebirth. Chapter 1. Remembering the person you were always meant to become. There comes a moment in a human life when the world grows loud and you suddenly realize that the noise is not coming from outside, it's coming from within. A restlessness, a pulse, a quiet ache that whispers, this isn't all I am. It doesn't happen in grand moments of celebration or triumph. Often it arrives in stillness, in the pause between who you were and who you refuse to remain. It arrives in those early mornings when the world is still dark and you sit at the edge of your bed asking yourself, is this really the life I was born for? You feel the weight of dreams you once carried so proudly, dreams you tucked away because life became practical, urgent, heavy. The world told you to grow up, to be realistic, to follow the path everyone else walks. So you tried to fit the mold, to be what you thought you should be. But somewhere inside you, something sacred never stopped breathing. It waited, patiently, quietly, until now. This chapter is that breath returning to you. Because the truth is, you didn't lose yourself, you simply drifted away from your own center. And today, you begin the journey back, not toward who the world expects, but toward who you truly are. At the start of every transformation, there is discomfort, not because you are weak, but because you are shedding old beliefs, old fears, old versions of yourself that once protected you but now imprison you. This chapter is not about forcing change, it is about awakening, reopening the eyes of your soul, reclaiming the pieces of yourself you abandoned to please others, to survive moments you didn't know you could outgrow, to fit into a life too small for your spirit. So let me ask you, not with judgment, but with reverence, when did you stop believing in your own becoming? When did you trade your wonder for practicality, your fire for comfort, your voice for silence? Somewhere between childhood and responsibility, the world asked you to choose safety over possibility. And because you didn't know any better, you agreed. But life, real life, does not reward safety. It rewards authenticity, courage, boldness of spirit. Today, you choose to remember. Imagine, for a moment, the version of you who once dreamed without limits. The child who didn't know fear the way adults do. The teenager who felt the future like electricity. The young soul who believed life had a place carved specifically for them. That person is not gone. They are waiting. Waiting for you to stop surviving and start living. Waiting for you to stop doubting and start becoming. This is not about chasing success in the eyes of society. This is about rising into fullness. The life that honors your gifts, your hunger, your purpose. There is a version of you that has been calling. That version is not loud. They don't scream for your attention. They speak through your dissatisfaction, through the goals you keep thinking about, through the quiet sense that you were made for more. If you've ever felt that, even once, then this journey is already yours. You don't have to know who you will become. You only need to know who you refuse to remain. Growth begins, not with clarity, but with willingness. Willingness to question, willingness to feel discomfort instead of numbing it. Willingness to outgrow the habits, the people and the beliefs that stunted you. There is a quiet power in deciding, I will not stay here. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Leaving is a decision, long before it is an action. And right now, in this moment, you have already begun. In a world obsessed with speed, the greatest rebellion is to move with intention, to take your time rebuilding yourself, to honor every part of your journey, even the broken pieces, because they taught you how to feel, how to endure, how to rise. Healing is not weakness. Reflection is not hesitation. Beginning again is not failure. Beginning again is evidence of life still inside you, ambition still breathing, hope refusing to die no matter how heavy the past felt. You are not starting over empty. You are starting over educated, seasoned, sharpened by experience. The pain you once thought would break you actually prepared you. Every silence you endured strengthened your inner voice. Every disappointment broadened your capacity. Every closed door refined your direction. You may not have given yourself credit yet, but survival is a skill. And now, you will turn that survival into creation. So let this chapter settle into your bones. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not late. You are here on the threshold of who you could be. Do not rush this moment. Feel it, because this is the turning point you will look back on. The moment when life stopped happening to you and started rising from you. The moment you became responsible not only for surviving your life, but for designing it. You don't become powerful by accident. You become powerful by choosing your future over your fear. And today is your beginning. Take one breath, a deep one. Feel the ground beneath you and the possibility ahead of you. You are stepping into a life shaped by intention, not reaction. Into a journey guided by inner truth, not outer approval. Into a chapter where you stop asking for permission to exist as the fullest version of yourself. Welcome back to your own becoming. The world will meet you in a new way once you reintroduce yourself to it. And now, as we turn toward what comes next, carry this awareness gently. You are not rising to prove someone wrong. You are rising to remember who you always were. In the next chapter, we will explore what it truly means to silence the outside world so you can hear your inner one again, clearly, fiercely, and without apology, because to focus on you until you win, you must first learn to focus on you at all. When you're ready, we'll continue. Chapter 2. Silence the noise. Hear your life again. There comes a point when the world no longer feels like a place you live in, but a storm you are trapped inside of. Not a storm of wind and rain, but of voices, expectations, opinions, and endless noise that tries to tell you who you are, what you should want, and how your life is supposed to unfold. And one day, in the middle of that storm, you pause, just for a moment, and realize something unsettling. You can hear everyone except yourself. The world has been speaking so loudly that your own voice has become a whisper, and even when it calls, you struggle to recognize it. This is where awakening begins, not when life becomes calm, but when you decide to stop handing your peace away to every sound that demands attention. Because transformation doesn't start with action. It starts with silence. You see, we live in a time where noise has become normal. We wake up to it, fall asleep with it, fill our days drowning in it. Notifications, advice, comparison, commentary, a constant river of other people's thoughts rushing into our mind before we've even heard our first thought of the day. We think we are choosing our life, but too often we are reacting to the world instead of responding to our soul. The truth is simple, but not always comfortable. You cannot build a life that feels like yours if you never make space to hear your own mind. Silence is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is where you meet yourself without interruption. It is where truth rises when the world finally pauses. Think back to a moment, maybe years ago, maybe recently, when everything felt too loud. Maybe you were surrounded by people yet felt strangely alone. Maybe you scrolled through other people's lives until yours felt small, dull, incomplete. Maybe advice came from every direction, and with each suggestion, you felt less certain about your own path. Noise has a way of making you forget your direction, your values, your rhythm, and slowly, without meaning to, you begin living a life that belongs to everyone but you. But here's the miracle most people miss. The moment you choose silence, not as escape, but as return, the map of your life begins to unfold again. Not because you suddenly know all the answers, but because silence reveals the questions that matter. Silence is not passive. It is one of the most powerful forms of strength. It takes courage to step back when everyone demands you step forward. It takes discipline to listen inward in a world obsessed with being seen. It takes maturity to realize that not every voice deserves space in your mind, even if those voices once shaped you. In silence, you discover something sacred. Not every noise is guidance. Not every opinion is wisdom. Not every expectation is yours to carry. And the voice of your life, the one that whispers what you're meant for, cannot compete with chaos. It waits for you to meet it. Let's be honest. Choosing silence doesn't always feel empowering at first. In the beginning, silence can feel uncomfortable. It exposes the thoughts you've ignored, the dreams you've postponed, the fears you've buried beneath busyness. But discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign your soul has finally gotten your attention. When you become quiet, you begin to hear truths that noise has been drowning. I don't actually want the life I've been chasing. I've been performing instead of living. I've been pleasing others while abandoning myself. I am ready for something different. These realizations are not setbacks. They are invitations. Invitations to return to your path, not the one others chose for you. Silence does not demand action. Silence creates alignment before action. There is a shift that happens when you stop chasing the world and start listening to your inner world. You stop rushing. You stop reacting. You stop feeling pulled in 1,000 directions. And instead, you begin to choose. Choose where your energy goes. Choose which voices matter. Choose what you give your time, your attention, your heart to. Your life becomes intentional, not accidental. The world will still be loud, but you will no longer be controlled by it. People often say they want to find themselves, but you don't find yourself in crowd. You find yourself in solitude, in slow breaths, in unhurried thought, in moments where the world doesn't get to decide who you are. In silence, you remember your rhythm, your pace, your truth. And once you hear yourself clearly again, something beautiful happens. You no longer fear being misunderstood, because you no longer seek to be understood by everyone. Your path becomes yours. Your decisions become firm. Your confidence rises quietly, steadily, undeniably. Not because life stopped being loud, but because you stopped letting the noise run you. Your solitude is not emptiness. It is you coming home. Silence is where clarity begins. Clarity is where power begins. Power is where transformation begins. And you are just beginning to hear your life again. As we move forward, carry this truth with you. You don't need the world to go quiet. You only need to reclaim the volume of your own voice. In the next chapter, we will explore the force that turns quiet intention into unstoppable momentum, the strength that builds champions behind closed doors long before the world celebrates them. Discipline. But before we step into it, breathe. Let the noise fall away. Let your mind soften. You are learning to hear yourself again. And everything begins from here. Chapter 3. Discipline. The quiet force that changes everything. There is a moment in every great story when the dream stops feeling magical, when the excitement fades, when the vision is still beautiful but the path toward it suddenly feels steep, heavy and unbearably real. It's the moment many people quit, not because they lacked desire, but because desire alone was never enough. Dreams may spark your journey, but discipline carries you through the fire. Picture a sculptor standing before a block of stone. They can see the masterpiece hidden inside it, the shape, the expression, the life waiting to emerge. But seeing the statue does not carve the stone. What transforms that rough block into art is repetition, chisel after chisel, strike after strike, day after day. That is discipline, the slow, steady devotion to a vision that has not yet become visible. Let's speak honestly for a moment. The world glorifies passion. It celebrates excitement, motivation, inspiration. But passion is loud and unpredictable. Discipline is quiet and consistent. And in the long run, it is the quiet things that build empires. Anyone can start a journey when they feel inspired. The real question is, who continues after the inspiration fades? Discipline is not glamorous, it does not give applause, it does not always feel good, but it builds a self-respect deeper than praise, and a strength that does not depend on mood. You may have asked yourself before, why do I start things and not finish them? Why do I know what I need to do but still hesitate? It's not because you are weak. It is because discipline has not yet become your identity. And identity is what determines behavior, not wishes. When you see yourself as someone who finishes what they begin, you carry yourself differently. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop waiting for motivation to rescue you. You do what needs to be done because you said you would. And that, more than talent, more than luck, more than even intelligence, is what builds a life worth living. Think back to a time in your life when you followed through, truly followed through. Maybe you exercised consistently for a month. Maybe you studied when it was hard. Maybe you woke up early for days in a row and kept your promise to yourself. Do you remember how powerful you felt? That was not the reward of the action, it was the reward of discipline. Because discipline whispers, I trust myself. When you break promises to yourself, your mind learns not to believe you. When you honor them, even in small ways, your confidence returns like breath after drowning. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about alignment, aligning who you say you are with what you actually do. Let's make this even more real. There will be days when you don't feel like rising, days when your own thoughts try to talk you out of showing up, days when comfort feels safer than progress. In those moments, you will be tempted to wait for motivation, but motivation is a guest. It visits when it wants. Discipline is a house you build and live inside every day. You don't need to feel ready to begin, because one honest action, taken without enthusiasm but with commitment, is worth more than 100 dreams lived only in your mind. Every great life is built in quiet moments when no one is watching. When you choose progress over comfort, when you choose growth over ease, when you choose your future self over your present feelings. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. And every step across that bridge matters. There is a misconception that discipline kills freedom. But the opposite is true. Lack of discipline ties you to your impulses, your moods, your distractions. True discipline frees you to create, to grow, to rise, to live intentionally instead of accidentally. Imagine two people standing at the edge of a field. One sees dirt, feels tired, and walks away. The other kneels, plants seeds, waters them daily, and waits. Months later, one sees nothing. The other stands in a garden they built with patience, effort, and faith. Discipline is planting seeds long before you see the harvest. You don't need proof to begin, you need belief. Maybe you are listening to this chapter because you are tired of cycles, tired of stopping and starting, tired of promising yourself tomorrow. Maybe you're ready for a different life, one created not by force but by devotion. If so, then hear this truth deeply. Discipline isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about returning, always returning, to your commitment. You may stumble, you may take a day off, you may lose momentum, but you do not abandon yourself. You come back, you try again. You rise even if the rise is small, slow, humble. Consistency is not perfection. Consistency is endurance. Discipline is not about becoming superhuman. It is about becoming reliable to yourself. So, as this chapter closes, pause and let these words sink into the core of you. Discipline is not a burden, it is a gift you give to your future. A gift that says, I believe in us. Your dreams are not meant to stay dreams. They are meant to become your life, one deliberate action at a time. Do not wait for the mood. Do not wait for the perfect day. Begin now, because a single day of discipline is a victory, and many small victories become a destiny. In the next chapter, we will explore something even deeper, the inner battles you must face and conquer on the road to greatness. The quiet wars fought in the mind long before the world sees your triumph. Because discipline begins the journey, but inner mastery sustains it. When you're ready, we'll continue.
Chapter 4, The Inner Mirror. There comes a moment in every seeker's life when they stop running from silence and begin to listen. Not to the world, not to the noise inside the mind, but to the quiet truth underneath it all, the truth that waits like a still lake, untouched and ancient, reflecting everything yet belonging to nothing. Perhaps today is that moment for you. Maybe you've spent years searching in accomplishments, in relationships, in validation from others. Maybe you've tried to build a self the world could applaud, only to realize applause doesn't feed the soul. And then, in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when your achievements can't clap back at you, when your fears no longer whisper but stare, you feel it, a soft ache, a longing you cannot name. A distant call that seems to rise from somewhere deeper than your thoughts, deeper than your identity, deeper even than memory. It's not the voice of who you have been, it's the voice of who you truly are. And it invites you now to look not outward but inward. This chapter is about the inner mirror, the sacred reflection you've avoided, cherished, feared, and yearned for all at once. Because every human life at some point reaches a doorway. Do you continue living as a collection of reactions, memories, and masks, or do you turn toward your own soul and ask honestly and humbly, who am I beneath all this? We spend so much time polishing the surface, reputation, appearance, success, performance, that we forget the surface was never the point. The world sees the costume, but the divine sees the dancer. And so today, I invite you to step behind your costume, not to abandon who you are in the world, but to meet the one who has always lived behind the roles you perform. Take a breath, not the kind you take automatically, without noticing. A real breath, one that reminds you you're alive. Feel the weight of your presence settle inside you. Feel how rare it is to pause long enough to hear yourself, without interruption, without judgment, without trying to prove anything. This is where true transformation begins, not with effort, but with honesty. Not by striving, but by becoming still enough to see what has always been true. You have spent years trying to understand the world. Now it's time to understand the one who walks through it. When was the last time you sat with your own heart without trying to change it? When was the last time you let yourself feel sorrow without rushing to heal it? Joy without fearing it might disappear, or tenderness without calling it weakness? There is a quiet bravery in allowing yourself to simply be, without performance, without perfection, without pretending. And those who dare to look inward discover something astonishing. You are far more than the story you tell yourself. You are deeper than the wounds that shaped you. You are greater than the fears that limit you.
Behind every insecurity lives untouched life. Behind every doubt, an undiminished strength. Behind every scar, a wisdom that could guide entire generations. But you only see that if you stop running long enough to witness yourself. Spiritual awakening isn't some dramatic heavenly it often arrives softly, like a memory you never lived, like a truth you always knew but somehow forgot. It begins the moment you stop asking the world to define you and begin asking your soul to reveal you. You are not here to collect the world's approval. You are here to recognize the sacredness of your own existence, so deeply that external validation becomes a whisper against the thunder of your inner knowing. Yes, there will be parts of yourself you hesitate to look at, old grief, unhealed pain, memories you buried because they were too heavy to hold. But the moment you face them is the moment they begin to lose power over you. The wound you acknowledge becomes a doorway, the shadow you greet becomes a teacher, the part of you you feared becomes the part that frees you. You are not trying to fix yourself here. You are meeting yourself, and meeting yourself is not a punishment. It is the greatest homecoming you will ever experience. Every soul has a light, and every light has a shadow. The goal is not to erase either, but to understand both, to become whole, not perfect, to become real, not impressive, to become awake, not approved. So as you listen, feel these words not as advice but as a gentle remembering. You are allowed to know yourself. You are allowed to love yourself. You are allowed to see yourself as sacred, even when the world forgets to remind you. And when you turn inward, you will notice something extraordinary. Your soul has been waiting patiently, not demanding, not rushing, just waiting, like a silent friend who never stopped believing you'd return. This chapter is your invitation to begin that return. Not all at once, not perfectly, but sincerely, because the journey inward is not a sprint, it is a surrender, and surrender is not weakness, it is trust. Trust in your own truth, trust in the guidance already living within you, trust in the life you were meant to grow into, not the one you were trained to perform. You are crossing a threshold now. The world is still behind you, noise and demands and expectations waiting like a crowd outside a temple door. But you are inside the temple now, and the temple is you. Breathe here, rest here, listen here. Life will speak, your heart will answer, and the path ahead will reveal itself, step by sacred step. As we move forward, remember this: you do not find truth by chasing. You find it by becoming still enough to hear the truth that has always been calling your name. And now, with quiet courage and a deepening stillness, we step into the next chapter, where the inner voice becomes clearer, and the journey begins to unfold not just in your ears, but in your soul. Chapter 5. The Courage to Let Go. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when holding on becomes heavier than letting go. A moment when the things you once clung to, identities, expectations, wounds, even dreams, start to feel like stones in your hands. And suddenly, you find yourself standing at the edge of an inner cliff, the wind of transformation calling, whispering, "Release, so you may rise." Perhaps you felt this before, that strange ache in the chest that isn't sadness or fear, but a quiet knowing, a gentle truth humming beneath the noise of habit and memory. It's time to shed what no longer fits the soul you're becoming. Letting go isn't loss, it is evolution, it is trust. It is an ancient door opening in the middle of your life, inviting you into a new room inside your own being. But here's what we rarely admit: letting go is not always noble, calm, or graceful. Sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels like standing barefoot in a storm, watching the familiar fade into mist. Sometimes it feels like walking away from a version of yourself who loved deeply, tried hard and meant well, but has finished their chapter in your story. To release is to honor what served you, to honor who you were, and to honor the wisdom that whispers, with tenderness and courage, you are not done growing. We often believe holding on is strength, and sometimes it is, but more often, true strength is found in the soft unclenching of the heart, in loosening the grip, in trusting that what you release returns as wisdom, not emptiness. Think of the trees in autumn, how they release their leaves, not because they are dying, but because life is changing form. They do not cling to last season's color. They trust the unseen cycle. They let go to prepare for deeper roots, wider branches, and a new bloom yet to be born. You too have seasons, and maybe this chapter of your life, right here, right now, is a season of release. Perhaps it's time to loosen your hold on old narratives that told you who you were allowed to be. Perhaps it's time to let go of the voice that says you must earn love instead of recognizing you are loved. Perhaps it's time to release the blame, the resentment, the idea that your past could have unfolded any differently. You are not abandoning your story. You are unweighting your wings. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means remembering without being bound. It means feeling without drowning. It means acknowledging what was and choosing what will be. Sometimes you aren't letting go of a relationship. You are letting go of the version of yourself who stayed small to be accepted. Sometimes you aren't letting go of a dream. You are honoring its purpose in your growth, even if its time has passed. Sometimes you aren't letting go of a pain. You are releasing the belief that you deserve to carry it forever. Letting go is not a rejection of the past. It is an act of faith in the future. And yet, the heart wants to hold on. Not because it is weak, but because it remembers. It remembers what once felt like home, what once felt safe, what once mattered enough to shape you. So let your heart grieve. Let it feel. Let it honor the weight before it learns the freedom. Nothing real is ever lost, only transformed. You are not walking away empty-handed. You carry the lessons, you carry the growth, you carry the deeper knowing of who you are and what you will no longer betray within yourself. Letting go is not about forcing peace. It is about making space for it. And when you release, gently, gradually, sincerely, you discover something astonishing. What remains was meant for you. What returns will come with clarity. What departs leaves a blessing in disguise. You do not let go to disappear. You let go to become. Take a breath now, not the breath of the mind, but the breath of the soul. Feel the exhale as a quiet unburdening, a soft surrender, a whispered agreement with life itself. In this space, in this stillness, trust blooms. Confidence returns, not the loud confidence of ego, but the steady confidence of truth. You realize the world doesn't fall apart when you let go. Your spirit falls open, and in that openness, you feel something sacred rushing in, your own becoming. So if you find yourself here, on the edge of release, know this: you are not losing yourself. You are meeting yourself in you. And the path ahead, it is lighter, clearer, more aligned with the soul that has been waiting patiently beneath the layers you are now ready to share. When the hand lets go, the heart can finally hold truth. When the old chapter ends, the story doesn't stop, it begins again, deeper and truer than before. Now, with a gentleness earned through courage, step with me into the next chapter, where release becomes renewal, and surrender becomes the doorway to a self you have only begun to glimpse, where life is not something you carry, but something that carries. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Becoming. Every sunrise carries a quiet promise. Not in its beauty, but in its demand. It whispers, "Who will you choose to be today?" Before the world stirs, before voices tug at your attention, before life hands you its tasks, there is a silent moment, a fragile window where your future sits in your hands, waiting. And in that small, sacred moment, the battle for your life is already being decided, not by fate, not by talent, by discipline. The discipline to choose yourself before the world chooses for you. Discipline is not punishment, It is devotion. It is self-respect in motion. It is the daily decision to show up for your future self, even when your present self feels tired, afraid, or unconvinced. People admire transformation, but rarely do they see the invisible staircase that built it. The early mornings when no one applauded, the lonely nights when no one encouraged. The hard days when quitting seemed more natural than trying again. This chapter is about that staircase, about the quiet strength required, not to dream, but to build. Let's tell the truth many avoid. Motivation will not save you. Motivation is a spark. Powerful, yes, but brief. It flares in moments of inspiration and fades in moments of doubt. Discipline is what you turn to when motivation disappears. It is the anchor beneath the wave, the root beneath the storm. It is the quiet voice saying, "I will not abandon myself again." Think of a sculptor standing before a block of stone. Nothing about the stone is glamorous. The sculptor lifts the chisel every day, shaping, shaving, cutting away what no longer belongs, not seeing the final masterpiece, only trusting it exists within the block. You are both the sculptor and stone. Every habit is a stroke of the chisel. Every repetition is a strike of faith. Every uncomfortable decision molds the future you. Most people avoid discipline because it feels slow, unglamorous, lonely. But slow does not mean weak. Quiet does not mean powerless. Lonely does not mean wrong. A seed grows in darkness before it breaks into light. Your evolution is no different. Discipline means doing what expands you, not what comforts you. It means choosing growth over ease. It means creating your life intentionally instead of reacting to circumstances. It sounds noble until real life knocks, until the alarm rings and the bed feels safer than your dream, until the world distracts you with noise and urgency, until doubt whispers, "Just today, skip it. You'll start again tomorrow." Tomorrow is the most seductive lie you'll ever hear. Disciplined people don't believe in tomorrow, they build today. And here's something else. Discipline is not harshness. It is not self-judgment or rigidity. True discipline is love translated into action. It is looking at your potential and saying, "I will not betray you." Think back to a time you kept a promise to yourself, even a small one. Do you remember the feeling afterward? The quiet pride, the dignity, the sense of inner power that came not from applause but from alignment. That feeling is self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of every unstoppable human. Now imagine the opposite. The ache of breaking your own promises, the heaviness of disappointing yourself. That pain is not punishment. It is a message. I am meant for more. Your life expands in direct proportion to the promises you keep to your future. Wake up when you said you would. Move your body when it feels easier not to. Speak kindly to yourself when the world grows loud. Work on your craft when no one is watching. Protect your focus like a sacred temple. These small acts build great destinies. Discipline is not a cage. It is a key. The key to freedom. Freedom from procrastination. Freedom from regret. Freedom from the powerless feeling of drifting through life instead of directing life. Some days you will feel strong. Others you will question everything. On both days, show up. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. Consistency is not intensity, it is loyalty. Remember this, your future self is not a stranger waiting somewhere ahead. They are built, breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment. Discipline is how you honor them before you meet them. So ask yourself, what small action today would my future self thank me for? Take that step, even if it's tiny, even if it feels insignificant. Sacred change begins in ordinary moments. In the next chapter, we enter another truth, that discipline is not only about effort, but about alignment, that you do not just push forward, you also learn to center, to still, to hear the quiet intelligence within.
Because the life you are building is not meant to be rushed, it is meant to be realized. Let us walk there, together. Chapter 7. The Silent Turning Point Within. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the outer world feels strangely quiet, and the inner world suddenly becomes unbearably loud. You feel it like a pause, a breath held by the universe, as if life itself has stopped to ask you a question you can no longer avoid. Not a question from the mind, but from the marrow of your being. A question that echoes with truth. Who are you becoming, and who must you stop being to continue? In this stillness, nothing explodes, no thunder, no lightning, no dramatic sign in the sky. Instead, something far more powerful unfolds, an inner shift so subtle, yet so irreversible, that once it begins, you can never return to the life you lived half awake. This is not the moment you change, it is the moment you decide to change, and decisions made in silence shape destinies louder than any shout ever could. You may think transformation happens in grand moments, triumphs, breakthroughs, visible milestones, but the truth is quieter, gentler, and far more sacred. Transformation begins in those private, fragile seconds where you face yourself without distraction, without denial, without excuses. It begins when you stop running from the truth you already know, when the part of you that has always whispered finally speaks loud enough that you no longer pretend not to hear. Think of the times in your life when you knew something needed to change, not because someone told you, not because circumstances forced you, but because your soul refused to remain confined in an identity too small for who you were born to become. Growth does not arrive like a ship, it rises like the tide, quietly, steadily, insistently, until you realize you are already standing in deeper waters. And in that realization, your heart trembles not with fear, but with recognition. You know, you are already becoming someone new. This chapter is about that sacred turning point, the inner pivot, where old stories begin to loosen their grip, and a new narrative stirs with life beneath your ribs. This is not the chapter of action. This is the chapter of awakening. Because true change does not begin with doing, it begins with seeing. Seeing who you've been. Seeing the cage made of habits, fears, and inherited voices. Seeing the door that has always been unlocked, waiting. Awakening is uncomfortable because it refuses to let us stay loyal to what hurts us. It dismantles illusions we have leaned on for comfort. It reveals how often we traded our breath for belonging, our truth for approval, our potential for familiarity. But awakening is also mercy. It is life tapping you on the shoulder saying, "My beloved, there is more for you than this version of yourself." And so the question becomes, when your soul calls you forward, will you answer, or will you pretend you didn't hear? Let me tell you a small story, not of miracles, but of a simple human moment. A man once sat at the edge of his bed just before sunrise. Nothing dramatic had happened, no tragedy, no success, no revelation. Yet something inside him felt unbearably heavy, a weight not on his shoulders, but on his spirit. He realized he had spent years living by expectations he never questioned, chasing goals that never fed him, trying to win a game that didn't feel like his own. And suddenly, without tears, without anger, he whispered the softest truth of his life: "I cannot keep living like this. No plan, no roadmap, just truth." That whisper changed him more than any loud declaration ever could. Because in that quiet confession, he finally told himself the truth. And once truth is spoken within, the soul refuses to allow a return to silence. Sometimes the most powerful moment of your life isn't when everything changes externally, but when you simply decide your spirit deserves more than survival. That single decision, whispered in the dark, becomes the sunrise of a new self. So today, as you listen, I ask you gently, where in your life are you still shrinking to fit a space you've already outgrown? Where are you holding on to roles that exhaust you instead of expand you? Where have you mistaken comfort for peace and routine for purpose? This is not judgment, this is remembrance, a remembering of the self beneath the noise, the self that has always known your capacity is far greater than your compliance. And yes, awakening can feel lonely. Growth often begins in solitude, not celebration, because before the world recognizes who you are becoming, you must recognize it first. But hear this softly, solitude is not abandonment, it is preparation. A chrysalis may look empty from the outside, yet inside a future of wings is forming. If you feel in between, no longer who you were, not yet who you will be, that is not confusion. That is rebirth. So breathe. You do not need to rush this moment. Awakening does not demand speed, only honesty. Sit with the stirrings within you. Listen to the quiet truths you've ignored. Honor the discomfort, it is the doorway to authenticity. Honor the uncertainty, it is the womb of reinvention. Honor the whisper, it is the soul's first language. And remember, transformation is never loud at the beginning. The universe always starts with a whisper before it sends the wind. Your task today is not to leap, not yet. Your task is to awaken, to acknowledge the shift within you, to say yes to the inner turning, to let your soul stretch in the space life has quietly opened. Because once awakening takes root, action will follow like water flowing downhill, effortlessly, inevitably, gracefully aligned with who you are becoming. And now, as we move forward, know this, you are standing at the threshold of a new inner chapter. The doors to your deeper life have begun to open, and the self you are growing into is already reaching back to guide you. This is the sacred pause before the journey accelerates. This is the inhale before life reshapes you with purpose. In the next chapter, we step into what comes after awakening, how to walk into the world, not as who you were, but as who you are newly becoming. For now, rest in this truth. Something inside you has already begun to change, and nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever be the same again. Chapter 8. When the inner world demands action. There comes a moment when the soul stops whispering and starts insisting. A moment when waiting no longer feels peaceful and staying where you are begins to ache like a wound you can no longer ignore. It does not arrive as a gentle invitation, but as a quiet urgency, a tightening in the chest that says, if not now, then when? Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast field just before sunrise. A horizon stretched wide with possibility, cool air sharp with expectation, the world holding its breath in anticipation of light. You can feel that morning is coming, not because you see it, but because every part of your being senses the world about to shift. This is the threshold between awakening and movement, between knowing and becoming, between feeling the truth and finally honoring it. Awakening was the spark. But action is where the fire begins. You see, inner transformation is not complete when realization dawns. It completes itself when realization becomes motion. Awareness without action is like wings never used, beautiful but untested, unproven, untrusted by the wind. This chapter is where the inner shift meets the outer world, where intention turns into steps and steps turn into a path made by walking, where the person you feel rising inside begins to take shape in your choices, your habits, your conversations, and your courage. This is not about rushing. It is not about doing everything at once. It is about honoring the subtle but unmistakable truth. Growth is ready to breathe through you, not someday but now, and the first breath of a new life is always the most powerful. Think of the times you promised yourself a new beginning, the dreams you entertained in silence, the versions of yourself you glimpsed in imagination but never fully stepped into. Why didn't you move then? Why did change feel heavy instead of liberating? Often it's because a part of you believed you needed certainty before beginning. Certainty about the outcome, certainty about the path,
certainty about your strength, your timing, your direction. But real transformation does not wait for certainty. It grows from willingness, the willingness to move even when clarity hasn't fully arrived. Because clarity is not the starting point, it is the reward for beginning. The path appears not before you walk, but beneath your feet as you take the first step. Let me tell you a quiet truth that many people never learn. You do not rise by force, you rise by alignment. When you act in harmony with the self you are becoming, effort feels different. It is not struggle, it is momentum. Not sacrifice, but sacred exchange, trading the old weight that held you down for the lightness that lifts you. Even the smallest step becomes powerful when it honors your inner evolution. One honest conversation, one boundary, one refusal to shrink, one moment where you choose your becoming over your comfort. Transformation is not a leap, it is a steady claiming of your truth, one heartbeat at a time. And each time you move in alignment, life moves with you. Of course fear rises here, of course it does. Fear is not a sign you're unprepared, it's a sign you are standing at the edge of what you've known. Fear is simply your old self resisting its own fading, whispering familiar doubts. What if you fail? What if you are not ready? What if the world does not welcome who you're becoming? But let there be a quieter, deeper response, the voice beneath fear, the voice awakening inside you now. What if I never try? What if I betray my soul by staying the same? What if the world is not waiting for perfection but for my presence? Courage is not born from eliminating fear. It is born from walking forward while fear trembles behind you, powerless to stop you unless you turn back. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to express your truth, and truth always survives the journey. So ask yourself gently, sincerely, what is one step your soul has been asking you to take? Not 10 steps, not the whole path, just one. Perhaps it is to start speaking your truth instead of silencing it. Perhaps it is to let go of something, or someone, that dims your spirit. Perhaps it is to begin nurturing a vision that scares you because it feels too sacred to fail. Maybe it is choosing rest where you once chose distraction, or choosing discipline where you once chose delay, or choosing faith where doubt once lived unchallenged. One step is not small when it sets the direction of your becoming. One step is not minor when it opens a new timeline. One step, taken in truth, is enough to shift an entire life. The world changes when you do. Not pressure, possibility. The world does not ask you to be ready, it asks you to be real. And realness begins with movement, gentle, intentional, honest movement toward what matters. Your life is not waiting for a miracle, it is waiting for your participation. The universe always leans toward those who choose to rise, even if they rise slowly, even if they rise softly, even if they rise unsure but willing. You are not beginning again from nothing, you are beginning from wisdom, from awakening, from truth earned through reflection and silence. That makes this step more powerful than any step you've taken before, because this time you are not moving out of fear, or urgency, or external expectation. You are moving because your soul has chosen forward. As we prepare to move into the next chapter, remember this: awakening is the seed, action is the unfolding, and the life meant for you grows with each breath you give to your becoming. In the next chapter, we step deeper into the art of sustaining this movement, nurturing your transformation, and building a life that reflects the person you are rising to become. For now, hold this truth gently in your heart. Your next chapter does not begin when circumstances change. It begins the moment you do.
Chapter 9. The Discipline of Becoming. There is a moment, quiet and sacred, when excitement fades and the real work begins. It does not arrive with applause or inspiration. It arrives when the world is still, and the only thing left is you and your choice. To continue, to stay true,
to do what your soul has asked of you even when no one is watching, even when the fire of new beginnings settles into warm embers instead of flames. Transformation is not a spark, it is a steady burn. And in this chapter we enter the place where the inner journey must become a lived practice, not a fleeting feeling. Imagine waking before sunrise. The world is dark, quiet, untouched by noise or demand. No one knows you are awake. No one sees your effort. There is no reward waiting, only the stillness and the question, will you keep going? This is where transformation proves itself, not in the dramatic moments of breakthrough, but in the ordinary dawns where consistency becomes devotion. Many people awaken, many feel inspired, many declare their new path with passion and certainty. But only a few learn the art of continuing, gently, patiently, and with unwavering loyalty to their becoming. The purpose of this chapter is simple yet profound, to honor the discipline that sustains awakening, because growth is not made of grand gestures, it is made of daily choices, quiet commitments, and small acts of alignment that over time shape destiny. Discipline is not punishment, it is love in motion. It is devotion to the life you know you are meant to live. And like any devotion, it requires tenderness and strength in equal measure. We imagine discipline as force, rigidity, sacrifice, or self-restriction. But true discipline is different. It does not shame you or strain you. It does not punish you for being human. True discipline whispers, I believe in you too much to abandon you. It is the wisdom to return again and again to the practices, habits, and intentions that honor your soul. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel strong. There will be days when you feel tired, uncertain, distracted, or discouraged. But the path is not sustained by perfect days. It is sustained by returning on imperfect ones. Dedication is not the absence of struggle. It is the willingness to begin again, every time. It shows up every day in silence and with patience, until even mountains reshape themselves before it. Your growth is the same, tiny repeated truths, small sacred actions, daily presence with who you are becoming. 5 minutes of stillness, one honest breath, a single choice that aligns with the life you want rather than the life you left behind. Discipline is not about intensity, it is about constancy. A small step taken every day becomes a path no hesitation can erase. There will be temptations on this journey, not the loud ones, but the soft ones. The temptation to delay, to say tomorrow will be better, to return to familiar comfort even when it no longer fits your spirit. You will be tempted to choose ease over evolution, comfort over courage, familiar wounds over unfamiliar healing. But remember this, growth rarely feels convenient. It feels awakening, stretching and humbling. It asks you to stand taller than your excuses, gentler than your old patterns, and braver than your doubts. You do not rise because the path is easy. You rise because you choose to meet the path every single day, with intention. Let me ask you something quietly, intimately, as if we are sitting across from each other. What routine honors your future self? What daily act nourishes your emerging truth? What habit, no matter how small, keeps your soul awake? Maybe it is journaling your truth instead of carrying it silently. Maybe it is moving your body, tending to your breath, or feeding your mind with ideas that elevate you. Maybe it is giving yourself boundaries, rest, consistency, or kindness, where once you gave yourself only pressure. Do not chase perfection, chase presence, chase devotion to the life that calls you softly, consistently, persistently from within. One practice done with sincerity can anchor your transformation more deeply than 100 grand intentions left untouched. There is a quiet dignity in discipline, a quiet pride in commitment, not the kind the world celebrates, but the kind your soul recognizes. I showed up for myself today. I did not abandon me. I am still walking toward who I am becoming. You deserve to feel that pride.
You deserve to witness your own consistency. You deserve to live inside habits built from love, not pressure. Let this be your reminder. Discipline is not self-control, it is self-respect. Every day you honor your path, you say to the universe, I am worthy of this future. I am ready for this life, and life responds accordingly. As we step toward the next chapter, hold this truth close. Awakening begins your story. Action shapes it. But discipline sustains it. The future does not arrive by accident. It arrives by devotion. Not loud devotion, not dramatic devotion, but quiet, steady, faithful devotion to the life that waits for you. And now, as you breathe into the next chapter of this journey, feel the strength forming within you. Strength not born from force, but from love. In the next chapter, we step into the wisdom of patience, timing, and trust. How to keep walking without rushing, how to build without forcing, and how to allow becoming to unfold in its sacred rhythm. For now, remember this: one devoted step a day is enough to change everything.
Chapter 10. The Power of Resilience. Resilience is not found in moments of comfort. It is forged in the crucible of challenge, tempered by adversity and polished by persistence. Imagine standing in the midst of a storm. Wind lashes, rain pelts, and the path ahead disappears into shadow. The world is chaotic, unyielding, relentless, and yet you stand. Not because the storm is gentle, but because something inside refuses to surrender. This chapter is about that inner strength, the resilience that carries you when motivation fades, when hope wavers, and when every voice in the world seems to whisper, "Give up." Resilience begins with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean passivity or resignation. It means acknowledging reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Only when you see clearly can you act wisely. Only when you feel the weight of life fully can you summon the power to rise. Think of a tree in winter, branches stripped bare, roots deep in frozen earth. It does not fight the cold. It bends with the wind, endures the frost, and waits patiently for spring. Resilience is that tree, the ability to survive, adapt, and eventually flourish. Resilience also requires perspective. When setbacks strike, it is easy to shrink into despair. But setbacks are not the end. They are teachers. They reveal weaknesses to strengthen, lessons to learn, and truths to embrace. Every difficulty carries a seed of opportunity. The mind that resists seeing this seed is trapped in suffering. The mind that seeks it is poised for growth. Your journey will demand more than strength. It will demand flexibility. Flexibility of thought, of heart, of spirit. A resilient person is not rigid. They bend without breaking, adjust without abandoning, and endure without losing sight of the goal. Emotion is a tool of resilience. Anger, fear, disappointment, these are not enemies, but messengers. They tell you where you need healing, where you need courage, and where your boundaries are being tested. A resilient mind does not ignore these emotions. It welcomes them, learns from them, and channels them into purposeful action. Every challenge you face is an invitation to practice resilience. It might be a difficult conversation, a missed opportunity, a financial setback, or a personal loss. Notice your reaction. Notice the pull to retreat, to give in, to feel small, and then choose differently. Choose to stand, to act, to keep moving forward even when the path is uncertain. Discipline and resilience are partners. Discipline keeps you on your path. Resilience keeps you upright when the path shakes beneath you. Together, they create unstoppable momentum. One without the other leaves you vulnerable, either moving without endurance or enduring without direction. Real-life examples surround us. People who have lost everything yet rebuild with dignity. Individuals who have been betrayed yet open their hearts to love again. Communities shattered by disaster, yet rise stronger than before. Resilience is the thread connecting these stories. It is the quiet force behind every victory that looked impossible at the beginning. Resilience is also cultivated in the small moments. It is in the decision to rise early after a sleepless night. It is in continuing when a project feels too hard. It is in maintaining integrity when shortcuts tempt you. Every tiny act of persistence strengthens the spine of your character. And here is a truth, often overlooked: resilience is contagious. The more you embody it, the more others around you are inspired to rise. Your quiet endurance becomes a beacon in the lives of those who feel lost or weary. Finally, resilience is anchored in belief. Belief in yourself. Belief in the value of your journey. Belief that even in moments of failure, you are still growing, still learning, still capable. This belief fuels action when everything else feels futile. It is the spark that keeps the fire alive. As we move into the next chapter, we will explore the mastery of relationships, how resilience interacts with the people around you, how to maintain strength without isolation, and how to create a life supported by both inner power and meaningful connection. Hold this reflection close. The storms you face are not enemies, they are tests, teachers and architects of your becoming, and the more you cultivate resilience, the more you discover the storm is never stronger than the will to rise. Chapter 11. The Mastery of Connection. No person is an island. Even the most determined, self-reliant individuals draw strength, inspiration, and wisdom from the people around them. Yet, connection is more than mere presence or casual conversation. It is an art, a choice, a deliberate cultivation of meaningful relationships that elevate both you and those you touch. Picture a river flowing through a vast landscape. Its waters are powerful, carrying life, carving paths, nourishing the soil. But the river does not exist in isolation. It is fed by countless streams, springs, and rainfall. The flow of connection, the people, the community, the exchange of energy is what sustains your journey and amplifies your growth. The mastery of connection begins with awareness. Notice the energy in your interactions. Does it uplift or deplete? Does it inspire courage or breed doubt? Not every presence is meant to remain in your life. Choosing connection consciously is a form of self-respect, a recognition that your energy is precious and that who you surround yourself with shapes who you become. But connection is not only about selection, it is about contribution. Every meaningful relationship thrives on give and take, on empathy, and on authentic presence. To master connection, you must listen as much as you speak, support as much as you seek, and remain vulnerable enough to allow true understanding. This is not weakness, this is strength. Consider the power of mentorship and guidance. Those who have walked paths you aspire to walk hold insight that shortcuts, struggle, pain, and confusion. Learning from their experiences is not imitation, it is acceleration. A masterful connection bridges the gap between what you know and what you are capable of becoming. And yet, mastery also requires boundaries. Connection without boundaries can drain, distract, and derail. It is not selfish to protect your energy, it is necessary. Boundaries ensure that relationships remain healthy, sustainable, and mutually uplifting. Think of them as the banks of your river. Without structure, the flow dissipates. With structure, the current strengthens. Emotional intelligence is central to mastery of connection. Recognize not only your feelings but the feelings of others. Respond with empathy, not reaction. Speak with clarity, not ambiguity. Show respect for differences while remaining anchored in your value. Connection is an exchange of authenticity, and it thrives when both parties bring honesty, vulnerability, and intentionality. Conflict will arise. Misunderstandings, disappointments, and disagreements are inevitable. But mastery lies in navigating them with grace. Do not avoid discomfort, but do not let it define the relationship.
Instead, approach tension as a learning ground, a chance to strengthen communication, deepen understanding, and reinforce trust. Resilience and connection are intertwined. A resilient mind allows you to engage fully without fear of rejection or failure. It empowers you to show up in relationships as your true self, unguarded but anchored. Connection in turn reinforces resilience. Supportive relationships provide perspective, encouragement, and energy that sustain you when challenges arise. Think about the networks of people who have changed history, teams of visionaries, communities of artists, families of innovators. The extraordinary is rarely achieved alone. Even the most independent souls are shaped, inspired, and elevated by those who walk alongside them. Practical mastery of connection involves daily choices. Choose relationships that inspire growth and challenge mediocrity. Listen more than you speak, especially in moments of tension. Offer value, encouragement, and authentic care without expectation of return. Maintain boundaries that protect your energy while allowing generosity. Practice forgiveness, understanding that mistakes are human and connection requires patience. By embodying these principles, you create a life rich with meaningful alliances, authentic support, and enduring partnerships. And yet, the deepest mastery of connection comes from within. Before you can truly connect with others, you must connect with yourself. You must know your values, your boundaries, your purpose. Self-awareness allows you to show up fully, without codependency, without fear, without compromise of integrity. Connection becomes a reflection of your inner clarity and strength. As we prepare to enter the final chapter, we will explore the ultimate synthesis of everything we have discussed: the ability to focus, master the mind, cultivate resilience, and foster authentic relationships, all culminating in the creation of a life defined by purpose, achievement, and fulfillment. Because connection is not just about the people around you, it is about the life you build through the quality of your relationships, the depth of your focus, and the courage of your inner journey. Hold this reflection close. Your connections are mirrors, teachers, and allies. Master them, and you amplify not only your life, but the lives of all you touch. Chapter 12. Living fully focused until you win. Now we arrive at the culmination of our journey. All the chapters you have listened to, the focus, the mind mastery, the resilience, the connections, lead to this moment. This is not the end, but the threshold where knowledge becomes life, where understanding transforms into action, where potential steps boldly into reality. Imagine standing at the summit of a mountain at sunrise. Below, valleys of effort, rivers of discipline, forests of challenge. Above, the sky expands endlessly, painted in golds, pinks, and possibilities. Every step you took, every lesson absorbed, every seed of change planted has brought you here. And yet, the view is not static. It calls for more. It calls you to live fully, deliberately, and with unwavering focus until you win. To live fully focused means to align your thoughts, your energy, and your actions toward a clear purpose. It is to refuse distraction, to refuse compromise of your values, to refuse surrender to fear or doubt. It is not obsession, it is clarity. It is not rigidity, it is consistent direction, fluid enough to adapt, steadfast enough to endure. Focus begins in the quiet spaces of the mind. It begins with daily practices that remind you, what I do today shapes my tomorrow. Every task, no matter how small, is a brushstroke in the masterpiece of your life. Every thought, every word, every decision is a declaration: I am committed to becoming the person I envision. Living fully focused also means embracing the discomfort of growth. The path of distraction is easy, seductive, and momentarily comforting. But it is fleeting. True fulfillment comes from persistence through difficulty,
from choosing long-term vision over short-term ease, from continuing even when the outcome is not guaranteed. There will be days of doubt. There will be moments when your energy falters. There will be voices, both internal and external, that question your worth, your purpose, your ability to succeed, and this is precisely when focus matters most. Focus is the bridge between challenge and victory, between intention and manifestation. Integration is the key. The mind you have mastered now becomes a tool of clarity. The resilience you have cultivated carries you through obstacles without losing momentum. The connections you have nurtured provide support, inspiration, and collaboration. Focus ties all of these threads together, weaving a life that is intentional, vibrant, and unstoppable. To live fully focused is to live with presence, to savor each victory, each lesson, each moment of growth. It is to act decisively, not reactively. It is to harness energy deliberately, giving life to your highest ambitions and deepest values. Tactical focus is also ritual. Start each day by defining your purpose, identify the actions that align with your goals, and eliminate distractions that dilute your energy. Reflect each night on what you accomplished and where attention may have wandered. Celebrate consistency, not perfection. Remember, focus is a habit, honed one deliberate choice at a time, but focus alone is not enough. It must be fueled by passion, courage, and persistence. It must be reinforced by resilience when challenges arise. It must be supported by authentic connection, because no one thrives entirely alone. And it must always remain anchored in the vision of the person you are determined to become. Victory, in this context, is not simply reaching a milestone. Victory is the person you become along the way, the disciplined, resilient, aware, and connected individual who refuses to settle, who refuses to compromise, who refuses to be distracted from their highest purpose. Winning is a journey, not a moment. It is the daily commitment to rise, focus, act, reflect, and grow. It is the courage to persist when the world tells you to quit, the discipline to act when energy wanes, and the wisdom to adapt without abandoning your direction. Take a deep moment now and envision your future self. See them standing strong, unwavering, focused. Notice the clarity in their eyes, the confidence in their stride, the calm determination in their heart. That person is not a dream. They are you in action, you living fully, you focused until you win. Every lesson from this audiobook, the cultivation of focus, mastery of the mind, resilience, connection, and disciplined action, converges here. They converge into the life you are capable of building if you choose deliberately, act consistently, and refuse to surrender. As this audiobook comes to a close, remember this: life does not wait. Opportunities do not linger. The power to shape your destiny exists in this moment, in the choices you make right now, in the focus you bring to every thought, every action, every connection. You have the tools, you have the understanding, you have the capacity. Now commit, focus on you until you win. Persist until the impossible bends before your effort. Live fully, act deliberately, rise repeatedly, and embrace the journey with courage and clarity. Victory is not a distant horizon, it begins in this very moment. Take the first step, hold your focus, and continue, because when you do, nothing, not doubt, not fear, not distraction, can stand in your way. And so, the journey does not end here, it only begins, with every choice, every action, every heartbeat focused on the life you are destined to create. Live fully, focus endlessly, win unapologetically. Your journey starts now.